welcome to Story Time with me, Miss Sheila. I hope you're having a wonderful, beautiful day. Today I'm bringing you out to this, it's in Manotick, and it's close to Ottawa, and it's just to a remembrance park for our veterans. And I thought, what a beautiful statue with the little girl and the senior, the veteran there, and to share this story. And it's about a little boy or a family that befriends and makes a family of a lady who is an older woman who is alone. So I hope you like the story. It's called Mrs. Kratz and Tush. Tush, I think is how you say it. Okay. Larno didn't know Mrs. Kratz very well, but almost every other day his mother stopped in to see her after work. Since her husband died, she's so alone, his mother had told him. Mrs. Kratz held tight to his mother's hand the day they looked at an old photo album. "That's my husband, Myron," said Mrs. Kratz. "He came from Poland like me a long time ago. We had such a life. Then her voice broke. "We had no children, and I'll be all alone for Hanukkah and Passover." And then she cried. So there is the mom and talking to the Mrs. Kratz, and there's the little boy. He doesn't look so interested though, does he? But it's good that he still goes with his mommy. The next day, Larno stopped to see her himself. Nice, bravo, so good. "I've been thinking, a cat had some kittens in the basement of our building, and we found someone to take them all except this one. She's the runt. Nobody wants her because she is so ugly. Oh, and she doesn't even have a tail. Oh my goodness, have you ever seen a cat with no tail? I haven't." "Ugly, you say?" Mrs. Kratz said. "My Myron was ugly too when he was little, but he grew up to be such a person." Mrs. Kratz looked at the little kitten. Oops. Sorry. The wind just blew your head over. "Scrawny little boobla, so small, no tail," she said as she examined the kitten closely. "I don't know," she said doubtfully. Then she saw the look on Larno's face. "Larno, I'll take her," she announced, "but only if you'll come and help me with her. I've never had a cat before." Larno promised. "A good Yiddish name I'll give her," said Mrs. Kratz. "Let's see. She has no tail. All you see is her tush. That's it. We'll call her Tush." Little Tush grew healthy and strong. Mrs. Kratz cooked for her, brushed her, knitted toys for her, and even read to her. "Such a person," she says, as she watched Tush play. Mrs. Kratz was in love. Nice, look at she's playing with the kitty, and she's knitting him a blanket maybe. Larno kept his promise. He visited Mrs. Kratz and Tush every day after school. There was always a fresh bake, frugal, and a tall glass of milk waiting for him. But as much as he grew to love Tush, he also loved to listen to Mrs. Kratz talk about the old country and the way times used to be. "I come from Warsaw. That's in Poland, you know. I came here to work sewing dresses in the garment district for my cousin. I didn't speak one word of English." "Then how did you talk to people?" "I didn't. A lot. I cried in those days until I met Myron. He asked me to marry him after he tasted my kugel. I believe that. Myron and I used to vacation in the Catskills, a resort, you know, a place for Jews to stay." "You mean Jews couldn't stay anywhere they wanted to?" Larno asked. And look at I'm so glad he started going over, and now he's like learning all about her country and culture. That's really cool. Miss Kratz didn't answer. Instead, she went to a trunk and pulled out some old clothes. My grandma told me about places she couldn't stay either, Lionel said. Lionel, your people and mine are alike, you know. Trouble we've seen. Happiness too. Great strength we've had. You and I are alike. So much alike. Where was I? Oh yes, the Catskills. We used to dress every Sunday and have a costume ball. Whoa! Every Sunday they would have a costume ball? Now where? Oh yeah. Then she put a record on the record player. It was old and scratched. You hear that, Lionel? That is what we used to dance to. It's a dance from my homeland. Here, I'll show you. And they whirled around the room and laughed. Nice, even the cat is dancing with them. Isn't that sweet? As the weeks passed, Lionel spent more and more time with Mrs. Kratz. Since you are almost family to me, she said one day, I want you should come with me to say Kiddush for my Myron. I know you're not Jewish, but Myron would have liked you. He's such a person, Lionel. At the cemetery, she read from her book. Then she asked Lionel to put a small rock on top of Mr. Kratz's headstone. Why do we do this to remember, she said softly. Shalom, my Myron, she murmured, and white tears from her face. On the way home, she announced, Kugel, such a Kugel. I begged for you today, Lionel. Hurry, Tush will be worried. Hurry, Tush will be worried for us, she said as they walked. Oh, I have never seen that either, that they put stones on to remember their loved ones so that their loved ones can remember them. That's beautiful. When they got home, they called and called for Tush, but she didn't come. They looked everywhere for her. Suddenly, Mrs. Kratz gasped. The window to the fire escape was open. Oh no! She cried. I forgot to shut the window before I left. Poor Boobla! Poor Boobla! She has never been outside. We'll find her! We'll find her! She has been acting strange lately. She has been trying to get out, but I was afraid that she would get hit by a car. I'll find her, Mrs. Kratz. I won't let you down. So there's the window that got out. And there's the menorah that the Jewish people use for their celebration. It was getting dark. First, Mrs. Kratz and Lionel looked around their building. Then they went everywhere in the neighborhood. They left notes on doors, telephone poles, and fences. They asked everyone who lived nearby, but no one had seen little Tush. That night it stormed. There was rain, awful, awful rain. Mrs. Kratz hardly slept as she thought about her little Tush. She's such a person, she whispered. Lionel worried most of the night too. What will Mrs. Kratz do, he thought. Please, God, bring that little cat back to her, he said softly to his pillow. Look at, so you see them handing everything out. A loud knock on the front door awoke Mrs. Kratz. It was Lionel's father and two neighbors. It's yours. Is this yours? They asked. My Boobla, my Boobla. Oh, we found her in the back alley, soaking wet and hungry. Mr. Moore said. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Mrs. Kratz said as she took Tush in her arms. Oh, thank goodness, thank goodness. They found the cat. Oh my goodness, that bad little thing. After a while, Tush no longer had the least desire to go outside again, but she slept a lot, even when Lionel came over to play with her. I was at my aunt's. It was Passover Cedar that I met Myron. Did you know that? Mrs. Kratz asked as she looked at Lionel. What good times they were, with lots and lots of family. Now it's just me, she said softly. Could I have Passover dinner with you? I thought you would never ask, she exclaimed as she hugged him. Such a cedar I'll prepare for you. Oh, and they give each other a hug, and look at the kitty. Guess what? I think when she went out, I think she might have had a pregnant. That's it. Passover is a time of good food. Like other people, my people were slaves too. They lived in a country where they didn't want to be. They wanted freedom so much that they prayed to God to help them. So he sent an angel that brought death and sadness to the houses of our captors. But the angel did not visit the houses of my people. How did the angel know where the Jews lived? Lorno asked. They marked the doors. Then the angel passed over, Lorno. That's why we call this time of celebration Passover. Whoa. So, Lorno, we have a big feast to celebrate, but we also remember those who had to suffer so we could be free. Mrs. Kratz said, part of the dinner is sad and part of the dinner is happy. Look at all the food in the bakery, and I'm glad she's teaching him what stuff that happened in the Bible. And it's like when Moses, that's when the Passover started. Is when Moses helped the Israelites escape from Pharaoh, from Egypt. As Larno helped get out of the linens and the china, Miss Kratz said, "You set this tablecloth. This was our wedding kappa, our canopy. For all these years we have used it for the holy days and celebrations. How come you have so many different dishes?" "Because some Jews don't get dairy and meat off of the same dishes," she answered. Oh, that's interesting. When they sat down to cedar together, Miss Kratz lit 2 candles and waved her hands over them. She read from her book and said prayers, and then smiled and said, "Let the feast begin." They drank wine and water. They ate bitter herbs, lamb and chicken. They also had kelpta fish and spicy cooked apples with potato pancakes. "This bread looks like a soda cracker. We make it is matzah, dear. We eat it at Passover. It's flat because there is no yeast in it, so it doesn't rise." Larno, I have hidden one piece of the matzah here in the apartment. If you can find it, I have a surprise for you. The surprise was a hand-knit sweater she had made just for him. Oh, and look at, he's holding the kitty. He's holding Tush. The next day, Mrs. Kratz yelled out her back window to Larno's apartment. Come quickly, already, oh my goodness, something wonderful. Larno and his mom and dad rushed to her door. The angel of death passed over, but the angel of life didn't. Mazel tov. Tough had 4 babies. At last I'm a boobra. Look at, Tough had babies. She had 4 baby kittens. Oh, wonderful. Look at how happy. She's the bula. The grandma now is so happy. As the years passed, Mrs. Kratz, Tush, and her descendants became part of Larno's family. There were graduations, weddings, new babies, and finally a kiddush of the little baby. Larno stood in front of the headstone. He read from her book. He placed a small rock on top of her headstone. Then he, his wife, and their children read their inscription together. Mrs. Kratz, probably such a person. Wow. I hope this book was such an inspiration to you that sometimes you will go and find somebody who is alone and make them your friends and learn from them, and they learn from you, and you become family. Oh, I hope you enjoyed today. I'm going to take you over so you can see a little bit more look of the statue, okay? Okay, let's go. See how this little girl can be learning from this man. It's so beautiful that they made this. So until next time with Story Time with me, Miss Sheila, have a wonderful, beautiful day, and go let your light shine.